Hey guys!
Welcome to our quilt along.
These next few weeks we'll be posting tutorials on how to make your quilt for the NICU babies.
In today's video, we'll be going over the things you will need to make your quilt. This is the only video that you will have 2 weeks to get your materials in.
We'll be talking about the things you need in the order that you need them. There are 5 steps to making a quilt. 1. Design and cutting. 2. Piecing. 3. Basting. 4. Quilting. And 5. Binding.
So let's get started!
To start your quilt, we are going to be talking about the design and cutting it out. For the design, we are going to be doing a patchwork design, which is the quilter's way of saying a simple square design. We're going to be doing a 40 by 40 inch quilt, which is the perfect size for all the tiny babies. To get started on cutting your quilt, you will need 3 yards of fabric in total. You will need 1 1/4 for the front, 1 1/4 for the back, and 1/2 yard for the binding. For the front, we are going to be using a variety of different fabrics, so it makes it unique. You can also get a charm pack, which is all the fabrics already cut out. For the back, we're going to be using 1 full piece of fabric. For cutting, you have 2 options. Either some fabric scissors, which are slower, but if you get them, you want to make sure you only use them for your fabric or they will get dull. And you also want to make sure you don't use paper scissors for your fabric scissors to cut your fabric, because they're too dull and they won't cut. The other option is a rotary cutter. For a rotary cutter, it is more costly because you have to have a rotary cutter, a mat, and a ruler. But an advantage is that it's faster and more precise, and you can cut more fabrics at one time. One of the things we are going to be doing is we are going to be posting our recommendations in the description box down below, so you know which types of materials to get. This is all you will need to cut and design your quilt.
Let's talk about what you will need for piecing your quilt. This step is where you sew all your pieces together. First, you will need a sewing machine. Any sewing machine will work. It doesn't have to be fancy. Also, you will need thread. We prefer cotton thread for piecing because polyester thread shrinks at a different rate. Finally, you will need an iron and an iron board to press down your quilt top.
Basting your quilt. This is all the things you will need to baste your quilt. First, you will need your quilt top, quilt back, and batting. Batting is the layer in between your quilt top and your quilt back to make it fluffier and softer. We prefer 100% cotton. To baste your quilt, you will need quilter's pins or basting spray. Quilter pins are safety pins but bent in the middle. Basting spray is basically a spray glue that keeps together all your pieces while you quilt. This is all you will need to baste. The next step is quilting your quilt. All you will need for this is your newly basted quilt, your sewing machine, and your thread. You can use the thread that you used to baste your quilt earlier.
Finally, let's talk about binding. This is where you create the covering for the raw edges of that surround your quilt. All you will need is your quilt and 1/2 strip of fabric. Be on the lookout for our binding tutorial in the future.